Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. The Dolphins actually made a good decision for once. I'm so excited to talk about this. I'm excited to see how the fan base reacts to this, because with Dolphins fans, you never know. But I really do believe that this is the right decision, and I'm excited to see what he does with the team. So let's get into this. The Miami Dolphins officially announced Mike McDaniel as their next head coach. This news comes from Pro Football Rumors. And in even bigger news and even cooler news, the Dolphins are retaining their defensive staff. Mike McDaniel is going to retain the defensive staff, which is huge news. And I think that's where I want to start. And I can't wait to talk about why Mike McDaniel at least gets me excited for the future of the team. But I want to start there. This is such big news because of Mike McDaniel retaining the defensive staff, because obviously this defense was built to run that scheme. There's a lot of young players on this defense that are trending in the right direction, and it was really smart by the organization to make this decision because you don't want to halt their development, because I think Javon Holland especially and Jalen Phillips have a chance to be special, and especially Javon Holland, I think it would have affected him the most to change defensive schemes. So it was such a big move by the organization to keep the defensive staff, to get those guys trending in the right direction, because those guys are special. That scheme is special. The talent there is special, and that defense was built to run that scheme, and they're really good at it. And I think it's going to help Mike McDaniel and take a lot of pressure off of him to keep some continuity, in the organization, and especially since it was such a successful unit. And retaining Josh Boyer, who's a fantastic play caller, I think was a huge step in the right direction. And, he was one of the bigger reasons why we switched back to some of the stuff we did in 2020 when we were on that losing streak. He was one of the bigger voices for that. So Josh is obviously a really good play caller. I would say, to be honest with you, he's the best coordinator that this franchise has had over the last 10 years. The man knows what he's doing and knows how to game plan and knows how to call plays defensively. So I think to keep those guys intact, to keep the success rolling and keep this defense going in the right direction, where you don't have to tear it down or add to it or change it up because you want to run your scheme, change the scheme and have to completely move some pieces around, to keep those pieces intact and to keep the defense, like I said, trending in the right direction, is a huge step in the right direction for this organization. And it's going to help the Dolphins win games faster, too. And it's going to help a lot of those young players continue to trend in the right direction. So that's huge news. So that got me really excited. So let's get to Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel is, I think, it was interesting. When we first heard about Mike McDaniel coming here and being the favorite candidate, I was completely against it. He's one of these guys that's just been around success. We've seen a lot of these guys fail. Like, if you're around Sean McVay, Andy Reid, or Kyle Shanahan, you've probably been hired a lot. At least those guys' assistants have been hired a lot, and a lot of them have failed because they're just around success. They don't really have that much to offer themselves, and we've seen that. Matt Nagy is the perfect example of that. So when I first heard this news, I was super skeptical. I was like, oh my God, please do not go down this road, okay? What has Mike McDaniel really done? And I think that's what the biggest reason why I was so skeptical, because it seemed like he was just getting this interview and getting the job because he was around Kyle Shanahan. But when you actually do the research, you come to find this guy has a lot of respect around the NFL and a lot of respect from his players. If you guys really read into him, and I hope you guys do, we discussed this a lot on the podcast last week, of how many players sing his praises. It's ridiculous. And not only that, but this man has coached in Atlanta, San Francisco, Cleveland. He's coached in a lot of different cities. And from each stop he's had, all of the players that he's coached there have nothing but great things to say about him. And I think, to me, that shows consistency, which is something that not a lot of the coaches have had coming through here. And it shows that he's a great coach. He's consistently good. He's not just good here or good there, or he's not just good when things are going well, like in San Francisco. In Cleveland, they weren't winning any games. And in Atlanta, they did win some games. And even in San Francisco, there were especially when they first got there, they weren't winning games. And it was just cool to hear that he has a lot of respect from his players. And you guys can go look this up. I mean, from Kyle Juszczyk to Pierre Garçon to Andrew Hawkins, there were so many players that he's coached before that have had nothing but great things to say about him. And not to mention Robert Saleh, who's the New York Jets head coach, obviously coached with Mike in San Francisco, had nothing but great things to say about him. And apparently, at least from what we hear from some of the talking heads around the NFL media, he has a lot of respect in the league. And I think that's important. Clearly the guy has made a name for himself, and his reputation is good. And to me, that means a lot to hear that as a fan, and it makes me excited that, this was the right guy and we're heading in the right direction. And so far, what the organization has done and what Mike's decisions have been to retain the defensive staff, and all of the things that we've heard about, all the good things that we've heard about him, it gets me excited for the future of this team. Not to mention the fact that this guy and the offense that he's bringing to the organization is really going to help Tua, and his values as a head coach is going to really help this offense and really help this organization. This guy values the running back position. He values the offensive line. If you look at what they did in San Francisco and in Atlanta and in investing in that offensive line, especially recently in San Francisco when they signed Alex Mack at free agency, they made that big trade for Trent Williams. So this guy values the right, things that previous coaches didn't value that much. Adam Gase is the best example of that. Brian Flores didn't value the running back position. So it's going to be nice to have a head coach who values those things and builds it the right way. And I'm excited to see what his scheme, how he translates the Kyle Shanahan scheme to Miami. From everything that we've heard from people that he's been around, he's a really smart dude, really innovative. He was a big part of that run game in San Francisco, and if he can bring that to Miami, that's huge for Tua's career, because that's going to take a lot of pressure off him. And I trust him that he can pick the right players to build this offense, especially up front on that offensive line. And like I said, if he can bring that kind of that Kyle Shanahan run game here, that's going to be fantastic for Tua's career. Tua, in my opinion, is more talented than a Jimmy Garoppolo and has more of an upside. And I think it's a match made in heaven with Mike McDaniel and Tua, and I think it's going to do wonders for Tua's career. And especially if the Dolphins, if the reports are true that they're committed to Tua, I think this is going to completely change his career, and that makes me excited for Tua. In the last, 5 years, this offense has been abysmal. This offensive line has been abysmal. It's been unfun to watch. This is an offensive league, and we've seen that this year especially. And I think Mike McDaniel, from everything that we've heard, if you do the research, I have no reason to believe, and I'm fully confident that this dude can turn it around. And I don't think Chris Grier is going to get in his way at all. From everything that we've seen from Chris Grier over the years, especially if you're, obviously, all of y'all are Dolphins fans, you know this. The dude's a doormat. I mean, he really is. He just kind of lets anybody tell him what to do, and he does it. So I trust Mike McDaniel to pick players, especially on the offense side of the football. The defense is already built. He doesn't have to worry about that. Which is huge. He can just focus and fix the offense, and I'm excited to see what he does with it. I think this is a great hire for this franchise. This dude is going to bring a really cool scheme to watch on Sundays on the offense side of the football. The run game is really important, and a quarterback's best friend is the run game. And it's gonna, like I said, it's nice. It's gonna be nice to see Tua in a competent offensive scheme and a competent offense, and hopefully, the Dolphins have the most cap space in the NFL. They don't have to worry about their defense. Their defense is fine. Their defense is more than capable of making a playoff push. We've seen that. It's the offense that's really weighing the franchise down right now, and they can completely just focus on that and completely focus on Tua and making him better and making the offense better. And with Mike McDaniel's scheme and his knowledge of the offense side of the football, marry that with, hopefully he can take what he's learned from San Francisco and build an offense that's successful like that in Miami. And again, like I said, especially for Tua, there could not have been a better outcome. I think this scheme fits him. And like I said, what Sean Payton, and I'm not saying Mike McDaniel is Sean Payton, but this is an example of, hey, this quarterback, he's on his second team. He hasn't really lived up to that potential yet, and just one coach completely changes that. And we've seen that in the NFL for years, where a coach can change a quarterback's career in the course of his career. And I think out of all the coaches that Tua's had, and he's had quite a few of them in his short time in Miami, this is the best one he's had so far. And I think this is the guy for the job, especially to fix the offense side of the football. So I'm super excited about this hire. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. I couldn't wait to do the podcast, to do this. We're going to talk even more about this in the podcast because I think there's so much stuff to bring up about this hire and stuff that gets me excited. But I just wanted to talk about it really quickly, and I don't know. I'm just really excited about it. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the podcast.